Hello everyone. Have you ever been in a situation where someone ignored you, a friend, a crush, a colleague, and it hit you like a punch to the chest? We've all been there. It hurts deeply. But what if I told you that pain isn't just a wound, it's a message, a sign? Today I want to share 4 powerful signs hidden behind being ignored. When someone ignores you, the pain can feel sharp and personal. It often triggers a storm of self-doubt. Did I do something wrong? Am I not enough? Why don't they care? But as much as it hurts, being ignored can actually be a clear sign that you and that person are simply not aligned in the way you might wish. This realization, while tough to accept at first, holds immense power and clarity if you allow yourself to see it. Alignment, in this context, is about mutual energy, effort, and understanding. It's about being on the same page emotionally, mentally, and sometimes even spiritually. When someone ignores you, especially after you've made genuine attempts to connect, communicate, or share space with them, what's really happening is an energetic disconnection. They are no longer meeting you where you are. That mismatch may not necessarily be because of you or even them individually, but because the bond between you isn't functioning the way it used to or the way you hoped it would. You might want their attention, you might care deeply, but if the other person isn't showing up emotionally, mentally, or physically, then the reality is, the alignment is off. It's like trying to play a duet when the other person has stopped playing their instrument. You can keep playing your part, but without their melody, the music doesn't sound the same. The harmony is broken. Often people stay in that space far too long, trying to force a connection that just isn't there anymore. We send messages. We try to justify their silence. We wait. We overthink. But in doing so, we ignore the truth. If someone wanted to reach out, they would. If someone truly valued you, they'd make you feel seen, not invisible. Their silence, intentional or not, is showing you something you need to understand. Your paths might be diverging. It's not always about blame. Maybe they're dealing with their own issues. Maybe they don't know how to communicate. Maybe they're just emotionally unavailable. Whatever the reason, it's important to recognize that if someone is ignoring you and consistently chooses not to show up in your life, it's a sign that they're not emotionally aligned with you at this moment. And if you try to build a meaningful connection on top of misalignment, the foundation will always be shaky. This is not about pretending you don't care. It's okay to be hurt. It's okay to miss them. But it's also important to ask yourself, why do I want attention from someone who doesn't want to give it? What am I really chasing, their presence or the validation I hope their attention will bring me? And more importantly, are you ignoring your own needs in the process? When we crave attention from someone who's no longer present, we lose touch with ourselves. We compromise our peace. We hold on to potential instead of accepting reality. But here's the thing, you don't need to convince anyone to stay. You don't need to keep pouring energy into someone who's clearly not matching it. Your time, your energy, your heart, they're valuable. They deserve to be met, not overlooked. Seeing their silence as a sign of misalignment isn't giving up. It's letting go of what isn't growing. It's stepping back and saying, if this connection isn't mutual, I release it with love. And that is powerful. That is self-respect. Because real connections don't need to be chased. They're balanced. They're natural. They flow. And when it's right, you won't be wondering where you stand. You'll feel seen, heard, and valued without having to fight for it. Life constantly brings people in and out of our path. Some are meant to stay for a moment, some for a season, some for a lifetime. But when someone begins to drift or ignore you, take a moment to see it clearly. It may be a sign that their part in your journey is changing or even ending. And that's not something to fear. That's something to honor, because with every disconnection, there's an opening for something better aligned with who you're becoming. Instead of focusing on why they're ignoring you, focus on why you kept holding on. Was it comfort, hope, loneliness? Once you understand that, you start to take your power back. You begin to release the people who don't align with you and start attracting those who do. You start giving your energy to the people who don't just hear you, they listen, they show up, they stay. So, yes, when someone ignores you, it hurts, but look deeper. It's more than pain. It's a signal, a sign that maybe the bond isn't mutual. that maybe your journey is calling you to release what's no longer aligned so you can make space for what is. Let them go with peace in your heart. Because when you let go of the wrong people, you open the door for the right ones to walk in, the ones who never make you question your worth, your presence, or your place in their lives. When someone ignores you, it can feel like a direct hit to your self-worth. You begin to question everything, your value, your presence, your importance. But hidden within that painful silence is an unexpected truth. It's a moment, maybe even a turning point, to reclaim your power. Because sometimes when someone stops choosing you, it's your opportunity to finally start choosing yourself. At first, being ignored feels deeply personal. You might ask yourself what you did wrong, where things went off track, or what you could have done differently. That spiral of overthinking can be brutal. But the real shift begins when you stop trying to decode their silence and start paying attention to what you need. The moment you stop chasing answers from someone who has gone quiet is the moment you begin to rediscover your own voice. You don't need to fight for a place in anyone's life. You are not here to beg for attention, love, or respect. The pain of being ignored often comes from placing too much power in someone else's hands. We give them control over our emotions, our self-perception, even our confidence. But here's the truth. No one has the right to make you feel small, unseen, or unworthy. The moment someone chooses to ignore you, they're not just walking away from a conversation, they're revealing their priorities. And that should be your wake-up call, not your breaking point. Reclaiming your power doesn't mean pretending not to care. It means caring more about yourself than about someone who doesn't treat you with respect. It means recognizing that silence is sometimes louder than words and listening to it with honesty. When someone ignores you, they may be trying to send a message, consciously or not, but the most important message is the one you send to yourself in response. Are you going to shrink or are you going to rise? Choosing to rise means stepping back from situations that hurt you and no longer serve your peace. It means drawing a line and saying, I deserve better. And you do. You deserve connection, not confusion. Effort, not excuses. Attention, not avoidance. The more you recognize this, the more your inner strength grows. And that strength is what begins to rebuild your confidence. This doesn't always happen overnight. Reclaiming your power after being ignored is a process. You may have to grieve the version of the connection you once had. You may have to confront hard truths about your own patterns, like staying too long in situations where you're not valued or clinging to the hope that someone will change. But once you start making yourself a priority again, things shift. You begin to realize that the real loss isn't yours, it's theirs. Because they lost someone who cared, who showed up, who tried. And here's something else. Your silence can be just as powerful. You don't always need to respond. You don't always need closure. Sometimes the most empowering thing you can do is to stop explaining, stop reaching out, and stop making space for someone who keeps disappearing. Your withdrawal of energy speaks volumes. It says, I respect myself too much to stay where I'm not seen. Self-respect is the foundation of reclaiming your power. When you realize your worth isn't defined by someone else's ability to acknowledge it, you become unshakable. You start walking differently, thinking differently, loving yourself more deeply. You start setting boundaries, not from bitterness, but from clarity. The clarity that you're not here to be an option. You're not here to chase anyone. You're here to be chosen, but first and foremost by yourself. And when you reclaim that power, you stop feeling desperate for someone's attention. You stop checking your phone constantly. You stop measuring your value based on who replies and who doesn't. You begin to understand that your peace is more valuable than any unanswered message. You learn to be whole on your own, to find joy in solitude, to recognize that the right people won't put you in a position to doubt yourself. That's the beautiful paradox. When you stop giving your power away, you become magnetic. You stop needing approval, and suddenly you attract people who respect your strength. When you operate from self-worth instead of insecurity, your entire energy changes and people feel it. Being ignored may be a chapter in your story, but it doesn't have to define the narrative. It doesn't mean you're unlovable or unimportant. It means it's time to pull your energy back from where it's being wasted and invest it in yourself. Heal, grow, level up. Because the best response to being ignored isn't revenge or reaction. It's evolution. So if someone is ignoring you right now, take a breath, feel what you need to feel, but don't stay there. Don't let their silence shrink your spirit. Rise above it. Reclaim your power. Remind yourself of who you are, what you bring to the table, and how worthy you are of real love, real presence, and real connection. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. Sometimes the quiet decision to walk away with dignity is the most powerful move of all. When someone ignores you, your mind often spirals into thoughts like, they must not care, or maybe I'm just not good enough. But sometimes that silence isn't just about their disinterest. It can actually be a mirror reflecting something much deeper. Emotional immaturity. Ignoring someone, especially in times where communication is needed, is not just hurtful, it's also a sign of someone who doesn't have the tools or the courage to handle emotions in a mature, healthy way. Emotionally mature people understand that communication is essential in any kind of relationship. When someone ignores you, especially without any clear reason or context, it's often because they don't know how to deal with emotions, theirs or yours. Maybe they're scared of confrontation. Maybe they don't want to be the bad guy. Maybe they've never learned how to express disappointment, disinterest, or even affection in a direct way. But whatever the reason, their inability to handle the situation like an adult isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their growth or lack of it. This can be hard to see, especially when you care about the person. But in doing so, you risk becoming the emotional caretaker in a one-sided dynamic. You end up doing all the work while they avoid it. And relationships of any kind aren't supposed to work that way. They require both people to show up, to talk, to lean into the discomfort instead of escaping it. Emotionally immature people often lack this kind of presence. They may act impulsively, make you feel guilty for needing clarity, or even disappear when things get too real. They leave conversations halfway, ignore important messages, or pretend like nothing happened after periods of silence. These aren't signs of strength or confidence, they're signs of avoidance. And deep down, that avoidance hurts them too, even if they don't realize it. But it's not your job to heal that. It's not your job to teach someone how to grow up emotionally when they're not even willing to meet you halfway. The hard truth is, some people will never give you closure because they don't know how. They've been so used to pushing emotions away that facing them feels overwhelming. Ignoring you is their coping mechanism, not because you're too much, but because they haven't yet developed the emotional tools to handle your depth. And unfortunately, being deep in your emotions in front of someone shallow with theirs always feels like drowning in front of someone who's just watching from the shore. Once you recognize this, it becomes easier to detach. It hurts, yes, but now you see the silence for what it is. Not a punishment, not a rejection, but a reflection of their own struggle with emotional growth. And knowing that allows you to stop internalizing their behavior. Their silence is not your fault. Their avoidance is not your responsibility. You deserve connection with someone who can communicate. Someone who can say, I'm not okay right now. Or, this is hard for me to talk about, but I want to try. You deserve someone who doesn't run from hard conversations, who values your feelings instead of dismissing them through silence. You deserve a space where your vulnerability isn't met with avoidance, but with presence. The more you recognize emotional immaturity for what it is, the less power it has over you. You start to protect your peace, your energy, and your emotional well-being. You stop chasing answers from people who don't have the emotional depth to give them. You learn to separate your value from their ability to see it. And most of all, you begin to walk away not because you're giving up, but because you're choosing something better. Silence can be loud, but once you learn to listen to what it really means, once you learn to read the emotional immaturity behind it, you become free. Free to stop waiting, free to stop wondering, free to stop breaking your own heart, trying to understand someone who can't even understand themselves. You are not here to fix emotionally unavailable people. You are here to grow, to connect, to love, and to be loved. In full, not in fragments. When someone ignores you, let their silence speak. But don't let it define your story. Let it reveal who they are. Let it remind you of what you deserve, and let it lead you back to the one person who will never abandon you, yourself. When someone ignores you, the pain feels personal. It creeps into your thoughts and makes you wonder why you weren't enough, why they pulled away, or what you could have done differently. But here's something many people don't realize. In those moments of silence, that experience isn't just there to hurt you. It's there to teach you. Sometimes, being ignored is life's way of redirecting your energy and focus. It's not just a loss, it's a lesson. A lesson in self-awareness, boundaries, emotional resilience, and knowing who deserves access to your heart. The sting of being ignored pushes you to slow down and reflect. At first, it's about the other person, what they did, what they didn't do, the unanswered messages, the conversations left hanging, the way their energy shifted without explanation. But if you look deeper, that experience starts to shine a light on you, your patterns, your triggers, your reactions. You begin to notice how quickly you gave away your peace to someone who didn't value it. You start to see where your need for validation came from, why their silence hit so hard, and how much of yourself you may have lost trying to be seen by someone who couldn't see you. In that sense, being ignored isn't just an emotional setback, it's a mirror. It shows you the parts of yourself that still seek healing. Maybe it reveals your fear of abandonment, your craving for acceptance, or your struggle to stand still in your own worth. These are hard truths, but they're powerful ones, because you can't grow without facing what needs attention inside you. Pain often brings clarity. The silence forces you to listen to your own inner voice, which may have been buried beneath someone else's noise. And then comes a lesson of boundaries. Being ignored teaches you what you will and will not tolerate moving forward. It draws a line between people who respect your presence and those who take it for granted. When someone withdraws without explanation, it helps you understand the importance of emotional maturity and communication in any healthy relationship. That silence helps you set new standards. Not out of bitterness, but from a place of wisdom. You realize that you deserve consistency, not confusion. And once you learn that, you stop settling for half effort, unclear intentions, or emotional neglect. The experience also builds emotional resilience. At first, it might break you a little. The not knowing, the self-doubt, the heavy ache of rejection. It's overwhelming, but eventually you begin to pick yourself back up. You start to breathe again, sleep better, move forward, and in doing so you realize something profound. You survived. What felt like the end of your emotional world became the starting point of your strength. The very silence that once crushed you is what helped you build emotional muscles you didn't know you had. You learn how to comfort yourself, how to hold space for your pain, and how to move forward even without closure. Being ignored can also be a test of your ability to detach, not just from the person, but from the story you created about who they were. Sometimes we fall in love with potential, with the version of someone that lives in our minds. Their silence forces us to see them more clearly, not as we hoped they would be, but as they truly are. And that truth, while painful, is liberating. It frees you from illusions. Listen teaches you to accept people for who they show themselves to be, not who you want them to be. That clarity helps you walk away with your eyes wide open. Over time, you also learn to protect your energy more fiercely. You stop overextending yourself for people who don't reciprocate. You start pouring that same love, attention, and energy back into yourself. You nurture your passions. You reconnect with friends who uplift you. You create boundaries not as walls, but as filters, to let in only those who genuinely value your presence. That shift in focus is healing. You begin to realize that your worth doesn't decrease just because someone fails to see it. You become your own validation, your own support system, your own home. The experience of being ignored, when processed consciously, transforms into wisdom. It teaches you to ask better questions. Not why don't they want me, but why would I want someone who makes me feel invisible? It changes your standards, your self-talk, and your expectations. It teaches you that closure is not always given by others. Sometimes it's something you create within. You learn that letting go isn't giving up. It's choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and self-worth over self-sacrifice. Eventually, you reach a point where you're grateful for the silence, not because it felt good, but because it showed you who you are. Stronger, wiser, softer in some places, tougher in others, more grounded, more whole. Being ignored didn't break you, it revealed you. It reminded you of your resilience. And most importantly, it taught you that the people who are meant for you won't leave you guessing. They won't make you beg for attention. They'll show up fully, clearly, and consistently. So while being ignored might hurt in the beginning, it doesn't have to define your ending. It can be your awakening, your redirection, your reason to pause, reflect, and rise. Every silence holds a message. And sometimes the loudest growth comes in the quietest moments.